Hello everyone. Now I have the great pleasure of having here with us Oriana Romero. She is this amazing person that my dear boss Ana Eist brought to us here in the Rio de Janeiro state. And some years ago, Ana was in the climate conference in Glasgow, and she heard Oriana talking about blue cities. And then Ana thought, so why we don't bring Oriana to Brazil and start thinking with her what would be a blue metropolis? And now we have this big strategy with her, this blue economy star. And I would like first of all to ask Oriana to introduce herself, to tell a little bit for us about her career pathway, how she decided to work with blue cities, blue metropolis now. Please tell us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here again in Rio, and of course to work with you, Anna, SEAS. It has been an amazing experience for us at the OECD to learn how Rio de Janeiro really wants to become a blue metropolis, and we were really proud and happy to support this process. So I'm head of unit on water governance, blue and circular economy. This unit is located in a division on urban policies and sustainable development within the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, regions and cities. So you may know what the OECD does. This Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is an intergovernmental organization of 38 member countries, and what we do is really support these countries with policy advice, data collection, production and analysis, and also we help countries network with each other, really put governments enhancing a dialogue across them but also across levels of government. A few years ago at the OECD we started this program on the blue economy in cities and regions, because actually we have realized that not that many cities, even the coastal cities that are really affected by climate change, for example, but they are also very much impacted by economic activities related to the sea. We're not having a strategy on the blue economy, meaning like what is that these cities could do in order to improve economic, social and environmental targets and enhancing the opportunities for the blue economy. And in fact we have published a report in 2024 which was launched at the UN Ocean Decade Conference in Barcelona, and it was a report across 81 cities and regions from OECD and non-OECD countries, and actually we found out that only 7 out of 81 cities and regions that we interviewed had a blue economy strategy. But this is important because defining a strategy help defining objectives, help defining an entire ecosystem where private and public sectors can work together towards achieving those targets, whether it is about ocean protection, marine ecosystem conservation, but also moving from traditional and sometimes polluting type of blue economy activities towards more sustainability. And this implies, for example, talking to local communities. So it's not just about having a strategy for the sake of having a strategy, but it's having a strategy really to understand what are the action that all these actors, whether they are public, private, or even part of the non-for-profit sectors. We also engage a lot universities, for example, or NGOs, can actually contribute to make this sustainable blue economy happen. And nowadays, with all this impact of climate change, population growth, this is so much needed, and I'm so very happy that actually Rio de Janeiro, through the state, actually decided to get engaged in the OECD program on the blue economy in cities and regions, worked with us for longer than a year, and finally in 2025 we were able then to launch this for us very important paper, because it was the first case study, so it's the first, we call it deep dive case study on the blue economy, and we couldn't have had a best example as the one from the metropolitan areas of Rio de Janeiro.
And since you mentioned this amazing example, could you share with us what, in your opinion, is our big potential of having this case study?
Well, there are many benefits, let's say, and points that I could highlight, but perhaps two are for me most important. The first is that we, since the very beginning, we have decided to analyze the potential of the blue economy in Rio de Janeiro from the point of view of water and from the point of view of ocean. This means that in these deep dive case studies, there has always been, the very starting point was that there is no a sustainable blue economy without a sustainable water management and governance. And in fact, the example of the Guanabara Bay is so instrumental to explain what I mean here. Because actually the bay had lost for many years, actually in the last 20 years, more than 70% of catchable fish, for example. It was not possible to use the bay for recreational activities, and there had been really a great investment, a great willingness from the state, and of course project in relation to sanitation that actually changed completely the use of this bay. And this really is a proof that the blue economy cannot be sustainable without a sustainable water management, with appropriate sanitation, with appropriate waste management. So this means that we have to overcome policy and technical silos. If we want to improve the sustainability of the blue economy, we have to make sure that the entire system is determining the enabling conditions for doing so. And so this is a very emblematic for Rio de Janeiro, but I think is an example also for other cities and regions that they may find themselves in a similar situation. The other point is that it was unbelievably great to see the commitment and the participation of several actors. The SEAS is a driving force. There is a lot that the SEAS is doing in terms of programs, in terms of projects, in terms of investment, but the implementation of the ground wouldn't be possible without the participation of the people. And by people, I mean the basin organizations, the universities, the experts, everyone literally contributed to this OECD report on the blue economy in the metropolitan area of Rio de Janeiro. And actually we came up with 6 policy recommendations on how to improve the governance, how to improve the stakeholder engagement, the finance for the blue economy, the planning tools, but the implementation of the ground, the actions that are needed for making this happen are really the result of participative consultation and also participation from the different stakeholders.
Wow, Even though we know that there is a huge potential of implement blue economy and that this strategy shows us this, there are also challenges. Could you please share with us what are the challenges that you are going to face when we start the implementation phase? And also, if you could comment a little bit them.
Yeah, of course. There are several challenges when it comes to the implementation of somehow an innovative system for the blue economy. What we had tried to suggest to the cities, I mean in general to the metropolitan area of Rio de Janeiro, was not just to move towards a sustainable blue economy, but also a blue economy that is resilient to economics and climate related shocks, inclusive, so that would engage local communities from fishermen to SMEs or startups related to tourism or to many other sectors. Sustainable, of course, in relation to the preservation of land and coastal ecosystems, but also circular, for example, in the use of resources and in the treatment of waste. This requires governance conditions to be in place, which of course sometimes are not easy to have. And I would like to mention perhaps just two, because this would represent our follow-up. The good news is that we will continue to work actually with SEAS, with the state, but on the specific metropolitan area. And we will focus on making sure that there is actually a real metropolitan governance for the blue economy. First of all, we have to engage all the 22 municipalities of the metropolitan areas. Some municipalities may argue that they are not coastal municipalities, and so why they would be engaged or why they would contribute to the implementation of a blue economy strategy if it is not their concern.
But why they think like that?
Well, because I mean it's true, because some of the cities of the metropolitan area are located upstream, so they are not necessarily facing the sea, and some other are located downstream, so they have more direct impact. But this doesn't mean, and this is going to be really the focus of our next phase, this doesn't mean that coordination is not needed, because everything that happens upstream, so for example in the basin, has consequence downstream. 80% of the pollution that we found in our ocean, in our sea, is actually generated on land and actually stays in rivers. So if we don't act upstream, then it could be also too late to act downstream. And we have just said that for a sustainable blue economy, we need a clean environment. So this is one point. The other point is economic incentives. Economic incentives that would change behavior. There would be, for example, stakeholders, like economic stakeholders with interest in keeping the status quo. Why would I change towards a system that probably is more expensive for my business? So why would I do something without having the benefit of taking this action? So it is important to understand what are the economic incentives that can change behavior, that can make the community of fishermen, the community of enterprises related, for example, to tourism, really to act collectively in a way that is beneficial for the economy. In the state of Rio de Janeiro, actually, the blue economy represents between the 20 and 44% of GDP. One big part is related to oil and gas, but then there is a very big chunk that is related to tourism. So, for example, this is a sector that could represent or could present some innovation in relation to risk-proof blue economy in the future. Economic incentives and metropolitan governance from source to sea are really the two key aspects. Now a challenge, but in the future that will definitely represent an opportunity.
And Oriana, tell us, please, what should we do now?
Well, now it's about, as I said, to continue to create this ecosystem of stakeholders that have objectives in common, and so can follow a strategy. It's important not to just have a single individual and small scale project, but really to act together in order to scale them up. So this is a first thing. And the second is to break silos, really to make sure that when we talk about the blue economy, it's not just blue, especially in a metropolitan area. This is very much linked with water, with waste, with energy, with land use, with biodiversity. So all these issues are strictly connected and should be part of a system approach, which is, I think, and especially on the basis of what we had done together so far, is really the approach that the SEAS is actually following now.
So Oriana, thank you very much for being here with us. And as Oriana told us, like, you have done a lot, but we still have a lot to do. So it's going to be a long pathway, but it's very important pathway, especially for Rio de Janeiro state, that has this amazing Guanabara Bay. We have this amazing Atlantic Sea as well. So thank you very much for being working with us. And do you have any last comment you would like to bring before we say goodbye?
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come here to work on. It's really like a home for me, and I look very much forward to continue work together on this very promising pathway towards a resilient, inclusive, sustainable and circular blue economy. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.